Today's topic for my speech is mental health awareness. Why I feel like this is such a big topic of interest is because I think it's super important that all of us have a better understanding of mental health and how to help others with mental health problems, but most importantly, why our schools are not taking into attention what's going on with their students and mental health. I feel like schools are focused on smaller things such as the school dress code, and they are not taking enough time out of their program to check on their students to see if they're doing okay. When I was in ninth grade, we had a school lockdown in the middle of the day, and very nervous, anxious, and slightly frightened, I wondered what was going on. As multiple things flashed through my head, I tried to stay calm and relax. You think everything will be okay, it's just a practice drill, and then you hear on the loudspeaker that the drill's over, and you feel like 1,000 pounds has been released off your shoulders. And a couple hours later, you find out what the lockdown drill was for. 3 blocks down at the high school, a kid got onto the roof and wanted to jump. So my first argument question is why we need to care more about mental health in schools. Said in an article by Marlene Saduka on June 9th, 2021. Mental illnesses are often symptoms of poverty. In fact, multiple studies have shown that low-income adults can be up to twice as likely to have mental illnesses such as anxiety and depression compared to higher-income individuals. And yet, less than 15% of children in low-income communities cannot receive help. Whether that's due lack of access to health cares or mental health treatment is not covered by most healthcare plans, stigmas around mental illness are all of the above. The communities that mostly need this care simply do not get it. And there are 6 million children in schools with SROs, but no schools with psychiatrists. According to a 2019 report by American Civil Liberties Union last summer, in the midst of protests against police brutality, students across the country began advocating for the removal of SROs and using their school funds for more counselors. This is a very big, controversial deal because the students are saying we need more counselors. Another argument I have is why are schools not taking surveys on their students for mental health? I think this is a huge deal because when you go to the doctor, some doctors, you take a survey on how your mental health is. They check on your mental health. They see how you're doing. They see what's going on in your life. Now, granted, I know this is a doctor's office compared to school, but it's just as important. In an article by Ali Grainsgreen on October 30th, 2012, she states the context is not particularly heartening. Students are seeking collegiate mental health service in a record numbers, with reporting severe psychological problems. More students say they've thought about suicide. Other surveys have found, even as counselors say, they lack the resource to keep up with their needs. To top it all off, many health centers are dealing with shrinking or stagnant budgets. That 62% figure is a kind of sign that we're not doing a very good job for some students. For when they come to school or develop a mental health condition, it is no longer okay for students just not to address their issues. It really became an issue that has to be addressed. Saying that students do not feel that they are being addressed to their problems. Now, I'm not saying all of their problems are the school's problems, but said in this article that students feel that they have felt that they have not been giving enough attention to, and has shown that students who have not been getting the proper help and getting checked on during school has led them to contemplate suicide. So after thinking about this for a while, I came up with another argument. which was, do we not have the correct resources? And I thought, well, this could determine a lot. And said in an article by Stacy Werner on August 9th, 2022, the United States does not have enough mental health professionals to treat everyone who is suffering. More than 150 million people live in federally designated mental health professional shortage areas. And within a few years, the country will be short between 14,280 to 31,109 psychiatrists. Social workers and others will be overextended as well, experts say. We have a chronic shortage. An approach backed up by a growing body of research, this type of tool only increases in access for patients. It also opens up provider time lots. The patient might do their CBT training and then meet with a provider for only 20 minutes instead of 15 minutes. So their therapist sees 2 patients in the only time they could see 1. There's also a mental health apps that could help expand access. But it is not as successful or as helpful or efficient as properly getting trained and then going to see a counselor who is properly trained and is going to help you with your problems. So another big argument that I think is crucial is dress code more important than mental health? Why are we caring about something like the dress code more than mental health? Dress code is something that not a lot of people like it. A lot of people wish they didn't have to have a dress code and whatnot. But a lot of schools are more worried about girls wearing spaghetti straps and boys getting distracted, or boys wearing inappropriate t-shirts that reference a gang, than mental health. But in my opinion, this is a sign of mental health. What people wear is sometimes how they communicate. And you can see that. If a girl's wearing something maybe too small or too big, well, maybe their home doesn't have it, maybe they're not providing enough money or something. If a guy is wearing a gang-related t-shirt, well, maybe that shows something at home, And this is why I feel like schools are much worried about things like the dress code and not worrying enough about how their mental health is. Now, I get dress code is important, but mental health, I feel like, is way more important here. This is going to help students feel safe and secure. And another argument that I feel like is extremely strong is, why aren't we teaching about mental health? Why aren't we taking the time to teach mental health to our students and our teachers? For example, a couple years ago, the women's goalkeeper at Stanford, who I'm pretty sure was a 4.0 student and a D1 athlete who was a starter, committed suicide. And it was a shock to the entire world. It broke the news because this just shows that Stanford was not properly checking on their students. And everyone just thinks, she has good grades, she's got great teammates, she got good coaches, family that can afford for her to go to a good school. She has great friends. She was not okay, and she committed suicide. To conclude this speech, I feel that we need to start paying more attention to our students' mental health and how they're doing. We are too focused on things that I feel aren't necessarily the problem, and schools are not checking on their students to see if they are depressed, have anxiety, PTSD, bipolar disorder, etc. There have been surveys of how students feel, and most of them are not good, and it's a high percentage of that. But we can't even take the time out of our day to make a mandatory survey at the beginning, the middle, and the end of the year to see how our students are doing. We are not checking to see if they feel safe, comfortable, if they have family issues, if they have had something traumatic happen to them, or if they've lost someone extremely close to them. I feel like making this mandatory is going to help a lot of students in the end. From a personal experience, going to doctor's office and having to take a survey on how I'm doing mentally has helped me a lot. And it's only going to take about 2 to 5 minutes of your time to answer a couple questions. So thank you for listening to the speech, and I hope you agree.